Hello guys and welcome back to the channel. Game week 10 is almost upon us, so let's take a look at the best strategies and players going forward, transfer targets you don't want to miss out, and my very own team selection this week. First of all, let's get this video to 10 likes, and as usual guys, we'll start with our Game week 9 roundup. 52 points left me with my biggest rank drop so far this season, over 300k. Like I said, this is the lowest my rank has been this year. Even though a few of my players actually returned, it was a week where pretty much every single player that could have done me damage returned. It's also a week that has kind of led me to think about the strategy going forward in this FPL season, but we'll get more into that later. Not that I was expecting a clean sheet from Rare against Liverpool, but the 0 really hit. Dalot only got 1 point after possibly one of the misses of the season. He'd actually rounded the keeper, so it was an open goal, and about 8 yards out he skied it. No attacking returns for Trent again, and I'm starting to wonder whether he's worth the 7 million price tag he's got on him. Lewis was the only defender to return this week with a clean sheet in Man City's 1-0 win against Southampton. Despite the red arrow, we did actually have a couple of double-digit hauls in our midfield with Palmer and Mbeumo. Palmer scored the winner for Chelsea and picked up all 3 bonus points. Likewise, Mbeumo did exactly the same, except he scored 2 goals and scored a really late-minute winner to win Brentford the game. Blanks for Semenyo and Rodgers, who played against each other, and the latter actually only played 56 minutes. One thing I think we've learned about Morgan Rodgers is that maybe his minutes aren't always so nailed after a Champions League week. There's a lot of football to be played, and this is really only his first season breaking out into the team. I feel like 3 points for Foden against Southampton is a really big missed opportunity that could have gone so differently any other week. I was sure for returns if he started and played the full 90, which he did, but that just didn't happen. The Chris Wood Calvert-Lewin swing got even worse this week, with Calvert-Lewin blanking and Chris Wood scoring twice on Friday. You may recall that after the international break, Chris Wood was the person I wanted in my team, but I missed out by 0.1 million because of a Luis Diaz drop. Just a really, really harsh point swing if you look at the data. But that's the way it goes sometimes. Haaland did return in Man City's game against Southampton with a goal, but he also missed 3 big chances, which just dropped him completely out of the bonus points. I suppose 6 is better than 2, but it could have been so much more. Speaking of Haaland, that moves me on to the next topic of conversation, and that's a sort of strategy we want to go for going forward in FPL. At the start of the season and up until now, it's looked to be 2 premiums in your team sort of season, but now they're just absolutely smashing it with the points every week, all of the premiums. So in my opinion, you've got to have as many as you can get. I genuinely don't think 2 is enough now. You need at least 3. And that's why Haaland versus Salah is such a big topic at the moment. For me, looking in the near future, Palmer and Saka are the 2 you need to have. Son and Foden, really, you can't really guarantee their minutes at the moment, whether that be through injury or Pep roulette. So that leaves you with 1 more premium spot, and you've got to pick between Haaland and Salah. Moving away from Haaland is actually picking up a lot of headway at the moment because of the fact that just before this game he'd had 3 blanks in a row. So Salah has actually scored more points than him this season with 84 against Haaland's 75. And over the next 8 games, their predicted points are very, very similar. Either way you go, you're getting a really good asset. And you'd be really unfortunate if one was to just absolutely blow the other one out of the water in the next few fixtures. That being said, I think it entirely depends on who's in your team at the moment, how many transfers it would cost you to get to the other one, and whether you're wildcarding. I myself have Haaland, and to get to a Salah team that I would want by game week 12, because I think that's the latest point in which you need to get 3 premiums in, it would cost me 8 points in transfers. And I just don't know if Salah's going to outscore Haaland by 8 points over the next 2 weeks. He could quite easily outscore him by 20 points. But then again, Haaland could also outscore Mo Salah by 20 points. My advice would be to probably stick with the one you've got if you have to rip apart your team and take hits to change. However, looking at the fixtures, I think Liverpool's are a little bit easier in this swing. And if I had a number of bank transfers, 3, 4, even 5, or I was on my wild card, I would probably go with Salah. So I've put together a no Haaland draft that I think could do really, really well going forward, especially after game week 12. Is sticking with Raya in goal to cover the Arsenal defence, as I still think they're a pretty strong team, and over the course of the season, he's going to stay in there most of the time, and Arsenal will be one of the best defences in the league. To go with him is the £4 million goalkeeper Fabianski, who actually started last game for West Ham. Probably the best cheap defender, or cheapish defender in the league at the moment going forward, Re. And to pair with him, I would look at somebody like Dalot. I know Man United have been really poor, but they've got a fixture swing and they've got a new manager now. One of the other luxuries about not having Haaland, you can still have 3 premiums and get Trent Alexander-Arnold in your team. Lewis is starting every single Man City game in the Premier League and playing 90 minutes. And Brentford's Van den Berg at 4 million finishes off the defence. As you can see, no Haaland means Saka, Salah and Palmer. One benefit to these guys over Haaland is the fact that they play in midfield, and the captaincy options for a midfielder, in my opinion, are so much better than for a striker. They get 1 more point for a goal, they get a potential clean sheet point, and actually, in game week 9, they all did exactly the same as Haaland. They all scored 1 goal. But Haaland only got 6, and the others got 9 and 10. The midfielder outside of the premiums, and in my opinion, just the must-have, is Mbeumo. If you've had him for a while now, you'll have a fair amount of money tied up in him, and I just think he's fixture-proof and probably a season holder at this point. After the Man City game this week, Bournemouth's fixtures swing again, and they've got a few pretty easier fixtures, so Semenyo's in the team. And up top, to join Re is Cunha. Wolves probably have the best fixture swing going forward. They've had a terrible start to the season, but their fixtures now are so tempting, and Cunha is one of their best attacking players, if not the best. In this team, I'd be expecting to play 5 midfielders and 2 strikers every week, so Stewart comes in as bench fodder at 4.5, and to join him and double up with Chelsea is Nicholas Jackson. Most of the value this season has come in the cheap forwards who are doing really, really well. But Nicholas Jackson is probably the only mid-price forward that has actually kept up with them. Chelsea's fixtures swing in game week 12 again, so he's one to look at. If you do fancy a little bit more firepower up top, you could easily downgrade Trent or Dalot and probably put somebody like Welbeck or Visser in for Stewart, or you could upgrade Nicholas Jackson to Ollie Watkins. If you don't have the luxury of playing your wild card or making 4 or 5 changes this week, then here are some of the best defenders I think you should look at. Vardiol has moved up to the top of the pile for defenders for me, but coming in second is 8 Nuri. As I just said, he's scored 3 goals and got 2 assists already this season, and he plays as a really high wing back in this Wolves team. He costs 4.6 at this moment in time, so probably the best cheap to mid-priced defender in the game at the moment. Trent and Gabriel have dropped down for me. Trent, because at the moment, I'm not sure the points he's getting are worth 7 million when you can use the budget somewhere else. And Gabriel obviously went off in their game against Liverpool with a knee injury. We'll have to wait for some more information on that, but if he's missing for a substantial amount of time, he might be worth taking out. As far as I can tell from the news, it's not a huge injury, and he may not be out for that long, in which case I would keep him in your team if you've got him. Lewis rounds off the top 5, another great option for below 5 million. Looking at the midfielders, and outside of the premiums, there's nobody really punching me in the face saying I need to be in your team, apart from Mbeumo. Semenyo and Rodgers are obviously really good enablers because of their cheap price. But if you've got 3 premium midfielders, you're more than likely going to only have one of them, at which point I'd go with Semenyo over Rodgers. That's simply because we've learnt that Rodgers maybe is going to get less minutes the further they go into the Champions League. Semenyo's always guaranteed to play 90. Bowen is another one I'd look at around 7.5 million, but I definitely wouldn't go him over Mbeumo. West Ham have a few better fixtures coming up, better than the start of the season for sure. And despite West Ham having a really bad start to the season, Bowen's still got 3 goals and 3 assists. Now, this is something that I wouldn't necessarily jump on yet, but I'd strongly monitor it, and that's Man United, especially the midfielders like Garnacho and Fernandes. After the Chelsea game, they play Leicester, Ipswich and Everton, and we all are aware, unless you've been living under a rock, that Erik ten Hag has been sacked and they're getting a new manager. It looks to be the sporting coach, and he's very attacking. I would keep an eye on how Man United perform in their next few games with the new manager. In terms of the strikers, I've got Chris Wood at number 1. He did pick up a little knock towards the end of the game, but it didn't really look like it was causing him too much distress. He plays in a team that is entirely built to get him chances. So if you've got him and you've had him for a few weeks or since the start of the season, then you're absolutely quids in. But if you don't have him, I would actually move to other strikers before I would move to him. Just because of Nottingham Forest's fixtures, they take a big swing and game week 11. And for me, it's just a little bit too late to board the Chris Wood train if you haven't already been on it. Congratulations if you've been on it for a while, but surely it's got to stop at some point. The next best budget option for me, around the same price as Chris Wood, is Cunha. He's scored 4 goals this season, and Wolves have had by far the hardest start in terms of fixtures. But from game week 10 up until game week 17, they play Crystal Palace, Southampton, Fulham, Bournemouth, Everton, West Ham, Ipswich and Leicester. Now, I genuinely think that might be one of the best runs in the whole season of any team. And I would look to get 1, if not 2 assets from Wolves in your team in the likes of 8 Nuri and Cunha. Even cheaper than Wood and Cunha are Raul Jimenez and Visser. This has just come back from injury, and he's already scoring goals. And Raul Jimenez has just been on scoring form this season so far. Out of the budget strikers, he actually has the highest XG per 90. Jackson just about squeezes himself into the top 5 because of Chelsea's swing at game week 12. Now they're playing Man United and Arsenal in the next 2, so I don't think he's extremely necessary to get in ASAP. But going forward into the future, he could be a great option. Now, we've spoken about who you might want to get in. I think we need to make a point about who you would want to get out. And there's 2 players in particular that I think if you've got, you probably need to get out. And that's Solanke and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Everton still have a few nice fixtures and they're playing Southampton next. So I don't think Calvert-Lewin is necessarily a transfer out this week. But in game week 11, I'd be looking at it. Anyone from the likes of Wood, Cunha, Raul Jimenez, Visser, even Danny Welbeck would be a good option to replace him. Solanke is the one that I would focus on moving mostly. His role in the Tottenham team seems to be that of one that doesn't really get him into many goal-scoring positions. Over the past 3 game weeks, he's accumulated 0.1 XG and only had 2 shots. Some players have literally scored more goals than he's had shots. And for me, that is just unacceptable for an FPL striker. If you're enjoying the content so far, please like the video and consider subscribing to the channel. If you found the information in this video useful so far, also please comment down below. And if you want to see anything else, let me know. In the final part of the video, let's take a look at my team selection for game week 10 and my transfer plans for the next few game weeks going forward. For game week 10, I have 1 transfer and I plan on using it. That's to bring 8 Nuri in. Now, I've replaced Gabriel with him because of Gabriel's injury. But if we find out that Gabriel's fine, it could quite easily be Dalot that comes out for 8 Nuri. So at the moment, this is based on the information or lack of information on Gabriel that we have. So we'll continue with Raya in goal. Dalot, Trent, 8 Nuri and Lewis will make up a 4 at the back for game week 10. I'll also play a 4 in midfield. Semenyo gets dropped out of the team for his game against Man City this week. So the 4 would be Palmer, Rodgers and Mbeumo and Foden. I am still considering whether I want to take a -4 to get Foden out and put Saka in. But for me, Bournemouth is an easier fixture than Newcastle. On the other hand, if we learn that Foden is not going to be starting, then I probably will take the -4. Up top, we got 1 more week of Calvert-Lewin, I think, against Southampton. And Haaland joins him, probably with the captain's armband, for their fixture away at Bournemouth. The week after that, the team looks very similar. Again, we'll be playing a 4-4-2, and I will be using my 1 transfer. At this moment in time, that will be to take Calvert-Lewin out and put Matheus Cunha in. The only other change in the starting 11 will be Rodgers will be benched against Liverpool and Semenyo will come in against Brentford. As I said earlier in the video, for me, game week 12 is the latest point in which you want to get your 3 premiums in that you want going forward. It's also a transitional game week for a lot of teams in terms of fixtures. And that's why my plan for game week 12 will be to get Saka in for Foden. Barring any catastrophes, the team will look like this. Raya in goal, Dalot, Trent and 8 Nuri as a back 3. Palmer, Semenyo, Mbeumo, Rodgers and Saka as a 5 in midfield, looking at Palmer as the best captain that week, and then Haaland and Cunha up top. As we all know, FPL never goes exactly to plan, so take this with a pinch of salt. But that is what I would like my team to look like by game week 12. And that's it for another week, guys. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to the channel for more FPL content throughout the season. Check out some of my other videos and go and take a look at my new TikTok account under the same name, FPL Pinnacle, for more short form content. Wishing you luck for the upcoming game week, and I'll see you in the next one.